The body of work I'm standing in front of are a series of 6 drawings. There's 6 of actually 13 pieces in this exhibit that start with a grid that is a kind of sense of abstract patterning and mapping. These 3 specifically are a series of very intimate small reeds at the very edge of a pond. And so they end up having these really abstracted kind of marks that one can ways that sometimes almost suggest that they're 3-dimensional forms, when in fact they are just little reeds that are sticking out of grass. And they also create a shadow from those reeds, and therefore it's quite ambiguous as whether or not they're 3-dimensional or 2-dimensional or both. And I'm really interested in how that conversation happens between 2 dimensions and 3 dimensions, and how the space itself is activated because of that. So sometimes they get pushed fairly far, sometimes they stop a little sooner, because I'm interested in keeping some of them literally quite white or light in value. But this one, as an example, which is different than the other 2 on my side, is actually probably has 4 or 5, 6 layers to it of that mapping, but also physical attachment of collage materials. So a number of these pieces, above and below and to the top here, are literally made by adding 2, 3, 4, 5 different layers of materials, both 2D and 3D. And I find it really interesting to have multiple entrance points for the viewer there is not one reading that I think these should have. You don't need to know the story of where they come from or what they reference. But I'm really interested in how a number of images can have multiple kinds of ways to enter for the viewer, for me, and they do continually seem to change in that regard. They are made of everything from inks to eventually some alkyd related oil over the top, with multiple kinds of rice papers and so forth. I enjoy discovering along the way where I get led. There is not a meaning to them necessarily from the beginning. I have used that process to discover where it takes me.